Hello, everybody. Welcome to PowerShell Wednesday. Every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we meet up, we have fun, we talk about PowerShell, we learn some things, we make some friends along the way. Thank you for being here if you are here live. Thank you for watching on YouTube if you're doing that after the fact. Very special episode today. The guest today is the podcast guest for PowerShell Podcast coming out on Monday, the post-Halloween episode. Josh King, the inventor of BurntToast, over 10 years old. This module is, would you believe it? And now it is in V1. The official, boom, it's been out for a little bit, and you're here to show us how to start creating toast notifications in PowerShell and what's new in V1 and just kind of have a good time. This is one of those modules that's like a very easy win, very fun, very diverse use cases. And I am very excited to share it. Hopefully some people have never seen it before, so we can really blow their minds. And the people who have, maybe we can show them what's a little bit new. But Josh King, welcome, my good friend. Sorry for that long little speech.
No, you're good.
Welcome, my friend. Well, I got your screen ready to share. I'll click that button. Let us chill a little bit. So what is our plan for today? Are we going to go over the basics a little bit, show people what this is, and then kind of go from there?
Yeah, I figure we'll start at the basics and sort of work our way up a bit. And
let's show them what we're working with.
Yeah, and I can't see chat, so if anything comes up, just interrupt me.
Oh my gosh, they're saying so many nice things. I'll save it for later, though. You're right.
Okay. So I guess the first thing is installing BurntToast, which as with any other module, the easiest way to do it is off of the PowerShell gallery. So you do install module BurntToast. Luckily, I've pre-installed it because unfortunately our timing's really great and the gallery's down at the moment. So I'll skip that bit. And then the very first easiest way to start using BurntToast is actually, I generally avoid aliases, but the absolute easiest way to do a new toast once you've installed BurntToast is just to run toast. And out of the box, you'll just get a notification that has some defaults in it. So it's got a photo of some BurntToast that I've been using in the module since day one, I believe. And it just says the text default notification. And out of the box, it's going to specify where the toast came from. So in this case, it's telling us this is BurntToast 7, PowerShell 7. And if I were to jump over to, say, Windows PowerShell, we should get it attributed to Windows PowerShell. And that follows through to, say, if we were in the PowerShell ISE, it would attribute it to the ISE. One thing to note, though, is it doesn't attribute it to VS Code. And that's because VS Code's actually running an instance of whatever shell you tell it to run. So if you're running Windows PowerShell within VS Code, it'll attribute it to Windows PowerShell.
I thought that was a joke. Whatever the shell you want to run it in, but you were actually saying whatever. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I do have a question, though, about the toast generally. So I've seen stuff in before where people like pop something up on the screen. It'll be like a window. This is actually a proper Windows toast notification. It's not just something you're displaying. It's going through the toast system.
Yeah, so It's going through the Windows APIs, the same APIs that, say, Outlook uses,
Slack, whatever.
Slack, Teams. Weirdly enough, Teams at one point had its own notification thing, and you could choose between system or Teams native, and it was a whole thing. So, but yes, no. This isn't like creating a WinForm or anything and popping that up. This is going through the OS, which means it is governed by things like Focus Assistant or Do Not Disturb and other priority things. So you can silence notifications. You'll notice at the moment that I have Do Not Disturb turned on, and in fact, that would have turned on automatically when I shared my screen because of Windows settings. So I actually have told Windows that PowerShell is allowed to break through my Do Not Disturb. And that's so because I use notifications from BurntToast. I'm the one sending myself notifications. And if I'm using them, I want to see them, even if I don't want to see Slack notifications or I don't want to see new email notifications. So I've set that in Windows to allow my toast to come through. But also, while we're here, we can see those notifications that have come up that I didn't dismiss. There's a history of them now in what used to be called the Action Center. I'm not sure if it still actually has that name anymore because they got rid of the label that calls it that. But there is a list of them there. So if I get rid of that one, I do a second one, we should see that that ends up, because it's a duplicate, we end up seeing a history, but then we can see the past notifications. So if you send a toast and you happen to not be there, there is a history of it. So you can go back and see the toasts that you've missed. So then, of course, that's the default. And then you can start doing things like, I guess at this point, I will introduce the full. There we go. So that toast command is an alias to new burnt toast notification, which is a bit more of a mouthful to say than toast, but that's the actual function name. And if we run that, of course, we get the defaults. But from there, what we can do is start layering in things like what we want to show on the toast. So, for example, we might go demo, and then that's going to change the default text that was on there. But we can provide, let me get rid of that, otherwise it'll distract me while I'm typing. But we can also add a second line of text.
Wow. Look at that.
And so this is just like we're giving it at this point an array of strings, so multiple strings here. And I believe, unless something has changed on me,
Okay, let's see this.
aha. So we can't sorry, where I'm going with that. The module will tell you if you're trying to cram too much in there. So
Helpful error messages, good UX. Boom.
So if we take that back, there we go. We've got the 4 lines. And you'll notice as well that first one is slightly bolded. So it's sort of treating that first line of text as a header.
Can we pause here for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Because what we just saw is pretty incredible. The fact that you install a module when the gallery is available, and all you have to do is run one little command that, if you're a pretty beginner at PowerShell, you can understand what that is. And then all of a sudden, every single script that you run, if you want some visibility, if you want to feel cool about what you're doing, you just add that at the end of it. Maybe add a variable from somewhere earlier in the script that contains whatever you're modifying, and it can just pop up for you. And you can kind of keep track of what you're doing, maybe for longer running scripts. And all you have to do is run that one line. Like, that's powerful, my friend. And there's more you can do on top of that, which is awesome. And if you're going to end users, we should definitely explore the other stuff. But on the low end, you literally just run that and you get a beautiful toast notification in PowerShell. Can you imagine? And if any of you have kind of dabbled a little deeper in PowerShell, the amount of code you'd have to write and research you'd have to do to actually create a toast notification without this method? A lot. Is that fair to say, Josh? Not very intuitive. You're going to have to read some APIs and learn some new concepts and then hobble something together that is not as replicatable as this module here. So, dude, I'm geeking out over it. Sorry.
And you just mentioned variables and being able to pass and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. So here I've went and grabbed the current time, included that time in a string, and then passed through the text that I want to display to the new burnt toast notification function. So this is an example of something that I might do if I was running a long script and I needed to know when it was finished. And while I've used putting in time there as an example for passing through variables, it is a little bit of a contrived example, given if I'd missed it, I would have seen the timestamp that the that the notification came through anyway. And in fact, you can see because I was doing it by hand as well, the time that I generated the timestamp was a little bit slower than when I actually sent through the toast.
Quick question.
Yes.
Jake Hildreth, also known as Horse, says, I remember at one time BurntToast didn't work with the store version of PowerShell. Is that still the case?
So I don't actually know for sure. And that's because I don't use the store version of PowerShell. So I'm going to have to test that.
Good question.
Fact,
I mean, Jake is a Microsoft MVP. You could
mentioned.
also make him do it for you and file an issue if it doesn't work. How about that, Jake? Open source, baby.
Yeah, issues gratefully accepted.
That's right. And you know what? I'll post a link to that in the chat as well if you want to check out, because it is open source and you can actually learn quite a bit from reading projects. Boom. Get that.
So yeah, text is all well and good. And what we've seen so far is that we've done a, well, we've got this default image that's popping up there. What we can do is then say, well, actually, I don't want that picture. So what that picture that's coming up here on the left, that's known as an app logo. And we can override that by telling BurntToast what image we want to use for the app logo. So if I go ahead and run that one, I've just got a PNG that's sitting there in a demo folder. And it's one thing to be aware of with this is it is going to crop that app logo as a circle. So this picture doesn't quite work well with it, but if I look at what I've got available directly in this, yeah, let's go with healthy. So if I go healthy, there we go. So I've got a circle picture, an icon or something, works a lot better in that space. And if you dive in deep into the more advanced functions that sort of sit behind this new BurntToast notification, you can control that cropping as well. So you can go into the weeds a bit and say, well, actually, I do want a square picture, and you can change the crop. But then that's a little bit boring as far as pictures are concerned. So there's also the top, well, there's two ways of including a image in your just had a thought that I'm not actually sure if what I'm trying to do is exposed via this.
Hey, it's a good sign. If you're ever wondering about something just like you, just run it in PowerShell. Even people who know it super well, it's the great thing about PowerShell. Run it, figure it out, test things.
Right, hit a progress bar. Lots of cool stuff in here, but not what I was looking for. So
you're looking at the parameter sets to see what parameters can be used together, or what parameter might or might not be.
Yes, and one scary thing about, well, one potentially intimidating thing. So what I would say is if you're looking at this module, don't get too bogged down in the parameter sets. So if we look through it, there are a lot of parameter sets here. Don't get too intimidated by that. This is very much a consequence of there being a lot of mutually exclusive parameters. So for example, there's a silent flag, which obviously doesn't make sense to be able to do silent and specify a sound at the same time. So there's a few things like that where I've put up guardrails so that you can't try and do things that won't work. And the result of that is there's a handful of parameter sets there. But we can do a hero image. And I think I've got a image of a local mountain. Yep. So a hero image, nice and big, top of the notification. So you've got an avenue there for, well, putting up a nice image, really, something that's going to grab attention.
I like that. I'm honestly thinking of a kind of funny troll project where you just randomly generate AI images and keep posting them. Like trolls post it on their computer all the time. Images of them is different. I don't know. Superheroes.
So
You could also do it
I
for work
have
stuff, just so you know. Little prankster over here.
so one thing to sort of lean into the pranking a bit is I haven't tested this in a while, so things may have changed, but you can use GIFs. There we go. So that unlocks a world of trolling possibilities.
Wow.
And just to round things out, let's see if we can do that in the app logo. Oh, we can't do it in the app logo. That's disappointing.
But by doing that, you
But
can
really,
make
would
no
you
logo,
want it small?
right? No, you need the full size.
Yeah. Do I have? I have other GIFs sitting there. Excellent. Let's try. Not that one. That one.
Oh, you got one believer. I'm installing this right now.
There we go.
Whoever this guy is. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So yeah. What else do we have? Now, unfortunately, I couldn't share my screen with sound, and I think that was a me problem, like something on my machine blocking it. So I will just mention there are different sounds that you can select from. So if we go back here and choose sound, these are all system sounds from Windows. So there's 10 total alarm sounds, there's 10 call sounds. And then over the right-hand side here, we've got the default notification sound, the sound that plays when there's an email. If you happen to have it paired with your phone, there's an SMS sound as well, and calendar reminders. So you can pick and choose the specific sound you want. These ones over the right-hand side, they will just play once and they're done. These ones actually loop. So it's just like when you've got a call, it'll do the ringtone and then repeat that ringtone as long as the toast is on screen. It'll also cause the toast to remain on screen for a bit longer than standard. So
nice.
I will probably be able to hear this, which is fun. Do I expose? No, okay.
I like this one a lot.
So yeah, I get to enjoy a Windows Phone ringtone. And yeah, that'll loop. And then there's other options when you really dive into the back end of things as well too. Basically, you can change the what they call scenarios. So you can say the scenario for this is an incoming call, and that does things to further extend the how long the toast is on screen. So you can end up there with a toast that's on screen for a really long time, but unfortunately, you can't have one that stays on there permanently. Because I know people have asked that because, of course, they want. I'm trying to tell my users something, and the toast goes away, and then they don't see it. Unfortunately, the answer to that is, well, then you're going to have to send another one.
While true. While true. Just do it.
So it's really easy to make useful toast notifications. It's also really easy if you want to try and go that route to be really annoying.
I mean, that's any kind of powerful tool. You can use it for good or evil. The choice is yours. Big responsibility here.
And while I was tabbing through those things, I was reminded.
BurntToast works with the Windows Store version, just so you know.
Perfect.
Josh King, he's at it again. Solves problems he didn't even know existed.
So there's a snooze and dismiss switch on there. And if we run that, just by adding that switch, it's told Windows to go and treat this sort of like a reminder. You'd look like you had a question there, Andrew.
I heard, and I'm listening to very faint background music, and it, like a sound of like an alarm kind of was going in the background, and I thought I could hear your thing. So I was wrong.
It's possible as well that I've got it turned up enough in my headphones that it's leaking, but
I can't tell, honestly.
So yeah, so this literally with just adding that one switch, Windows has added a bunch of functionality to this card, or this toast, I should say, where now as a user, I can go and select a time, anywhere from 5 minutes up to a day. And if I were to go and click snooze, now Windows has taken that toast notification and basically hid it in the background. Actually, is it fully in the background? Yes. And in 5 minutes, which is going to be real fun for this demo, it's going to pop back up of its own accord. And then again, as a user, I'll be able to snooze or dismiss it. So it really does treat it like an alarm.
So can I share something here? Because I think that
Yeah,
one is
okay.
actually really fun. I've interacted with the snooze and dismiss many times, particularly when it comes to like, okay, I'm trying to focus now. I'm using a lot of PowerShell. Let me start what I did is Pomodoro timer. So I would like start Pomodoro timer, kick off something, and then after 25 minutes or whatever time, it would pop up with the snooze thing. So, sometimes you need an extra 5 minutes to work, and a sound. And, your boy had to add a very nice message, slightly randomly generated of like 6 options, but it felt cool to write.
One new thing in version 1 of BurntToast is now we've got an urgent switch. So this ties into a new feature in Windows called important notifications. And this is evidently the first time I've done it from Windows 7. So, sorry, Windows 7. PowerShell 7. Geez, I'm trying to attribute 7 to everything. But what you'll see is it's added a little red exclamation mark on it. So that's how you visually see that this has been tagged as an important notification. But also you as the user get to select whether or not you actually want to treat important notifications from PowerShell, from whatever's calling that notification as important. So then I can go and allow. And now, regardless of what I've got set for my snooze and dismiss settings, these important notifications are going to break through. I don't use that because I have lots of notifications that I have going off that I don't want to have to go through and add the urgent switch to all of them. So there's that. That's new in version 1. But then we've also got, let me go and let's create a test file. And we're going to pop that in my demo file. There we go. This test, let's just call it test. Okay, so let's imagine that we've run a script and it created that test file. And so I want to get a notification telling me that that script's finished, and also give me an opportunity to go and open that file that's created. So I'm going to create a button that I can click and it'll open that up. Let's go button equals. In fact, let me clear the screen so we can see this up the top now. There we go. BT button. There we go. So all of the functions in BurntToast that aren't the main new BurntToast notification function have this BT prefix, just to make them easier to identify and make sure they don't clash with anything.
I love BT. It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
It does. Arguments. Let's go. Let's give it the full path just in case. There we go. So basically, when we're creating a button, we tell it the content, which is going to be the text that shows up on the button, and then an argument. So this can either be just a random string, and you can use that when you're dealing with actionable notifications where you can actually register events and all sorts. Hey, there we go. That's the notification we snoozed earlier. So let's go and dismiss that. But if you give it a URI, so that being either a website address or a path to a file, the Windows API itself is just going to try and run that file effectively. And it's going to do the same thing as if you dropped that path into the run box. So the thing to be aware of there is I'm giving it the file name, and it's going to try and open that file in the default app for that file. So if that's Notepad, it's going to open Notepad. If you give it a URL, it'll open in your default browser. Which I normally do this demo with a URL, like pointing to Google or something. But at the moment, I don't actually want to open the browser that would open. So hence I've gone and on the fly created a text file. So let's go and create that. And then to actually use it, let's go back to new BurntToast notification. Let's give it some text. Say done. And give it a button. And then we just pass in that variable that contains our button object. There we go. So we've got the report done. We've got a button. And if we click that, it opens up the file that contains our test file.
Okay. Now this is powerful as heck, potentially. Like incredibly, incredibly. Imagine you write some PowerShell that does some project or some report or something like that, or someone can maybe on demand request something and a script can run. It can generate information for them. It can pop up, let them know, and then they can open it or take another kind of action. I mean, really, the sky's the limit. Oh,
Yes.
couple questions though, unless there's something you want to show.
No, go for it.
Okay. If there is no default app, will Windows ask which program to open it with?
I believe it will. It'll basically be as if you double clicked the file in File Explorer.
Yep. There was another great one. Oh yeah, can you edit the from part on the BurntToast? This person says users would flip out and kill the poor help desk seeing PowerShell.
So yes, and at the moment there's a caveat to that. So we'll cover that. And yeah, I'll cover the caveat as well, which is that I've realized that I need to push a new version of BurntToast to fix something. So what I just did there was I've now got my button and I've added an image URI to it. And I've just pointed to a file that's in my path here. And what I'm expecting, well, I wasn't expecting that. Let me see if that's because might want the full path. So let's give it the full path. And if not, there we go. So you can add it. I've got guidance around the fact that you should probably not use a big image and downscale it because it does come out a bit wonky. But if you've got an icon that you want to use on your button, you absolutely can do. And I was thinking there as well is it should. No. So that's another thing I need to go and add to the next version. But I believe it's meant to be possible to not include a string if you're including an image. And that'll just be me not allowing null when I'm doing that. So look out for that, and it'll be 1.1, I assume.
Would a space work instead of a quote? Or wouldn't count as a string, maybe?
Let's give it a try. In fact, maybe that will
That
work.
would probably work too.
I can't make it empty, but can I do that? I imagine it will look half right. No, good. Okay. Cool. So that did display right. What I thought might happen there is it would still have the new line, but you wouldn't be able to see the character that's in there. But no, that worked. That's great. So version 1.1, it should be possible to just, if you're providing an image URI, you shouldn't need to provide that.
So you need a whole new parameter set?
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah, that's always fun.
At least that's only on the button one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can provide multiple buttons. So imagine these do different things.
It's like gambling. Which one are you going to click? Maybe you get a prize. Oh my gosh. Don't take that idea, people. I'm not encouraging it. Oh my
Let's
goodness.
see how far we can take that.
Okay.
I think.
Is there an upper bound limit?
There definitely is.
5. Come on, there's no way. It's 64. Oh, there you go. Dang. I was hoping.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, okay. So it is counting correctly. Good. So you can have up to 5 buttons for if that's useful. I would say if you're getting up to the 5 buttons realm, it does. I was about to say it would make sense to only include an image, but I then stopped myself because I think, no, okay. I was going to say it might wrap them onto a second line, but no. So I'd say if you're going up to 5 buttons for whatever reason, probably best to just use an image rather than trying to put text in there as well. And then the final thing with buttons that I wanted to show is, let's go back to there. No, let's go back to my original, that one. There's now a color option where you can choose between green or red. So if we went green, you can see it, button 1. And quicker way to get there. There we go. And sure, let's try and mix and match a bit. There we go. So let's go ahead and go button 2 and button 1. Let me take a screenshot of that. Why didn't it like that? Anyway, so you can color the buttons, but I've exposed this as coloring, despite the only options being red and green. And I sort of want to find out why the red one's not working. Okay. Now, the reason why it's only red and green is because from the API side of things, you're basically telling Windows that it's either a success or failure type situation. So they've really only exposed the red or green. So you can't go and say, actually, I want purple. I want a nice blue. No, your options are red or green.
No way to work around it without hacking or something crazy, because Microsoft has just decided you're dealing with their APIs, their rules.
Yep.
But it's also kind of nice because then the users can control it, and you can, it's a nicer user experience to have that higher level sometimes.
Actually, I had another. So I'm just looking at an old demo on my other screen there. I want to run this one to see if it generates that error. So maybe I shouldn't have selected the error after selecting the thing I wanted to paste. Okay.
An error that doesn't actually
something. And so part of the fun here is now I need to go and figure out, is this from my code, which evidently worked because I had a demo for this at one point, or is this a change in the most recent Windows update, which I, in my infinite wisdom, installed last night? So
Windows
do
updates
that.
have been really consistent lately. You'll have no issues. Trust me.
I'm sure. So rather than try and type these ones out, I do have some demos in my VS Code over here. So I'll pull that over and it'll be a bit easier to talk through them here. Let's blow that up. Blow that up.
Can I rant for a second?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. I'm a big TUI guy. I love an interface. I honestly think that there are use cases where that is the only input you need for an end user for some tool. Is that little pop-up, they request something, you kick us something off, it pops up for them. They select how they want to go and proceed or whatever. You empower them, and that's all you need. You don't need some kind of other fancy stuff to get things organized. I mean, to me, that's a pretty powerful option to have in your back pocket. Definitely not the best the best use case for every situation, but there are some where it's a very helpful thing to have in your back pocket, and many other more generic use cases where it just makes sense.
Okay. So on a toast notification, we've shown text, we've shown images, we've shown buttons. Another thing you can put on there is a progress bar. And so reaching back to my help desk days, I threw together a demo to show how you could display a status for the toner levels in a printer, with the idea being that you're monitoring that potentially via some sort of API on the printer or your print server or whatever mechanism you have available to you to get that information. And then once you hit below a threshold, in this example, it would be 10%, you then go and run a notification so that you get a notification about that, rather than sending yourself an email or doing it some other way. And the result of, well, actually, let's step through quickly how you do it. So you create a notification using new BT progress bar. Then status is basically telling it what the display text to put on the status bar is. So in this case, I'm using status to show the color. You could also use status to do things like downloading, installing, to show what the status of something that you're doing is. So you could show a status bar for a script that's running, and you can put in the status, what the stage in the script is. And then the value is just a number between 0 and 1. 0 for a progress bar being 0% and 1 being 100% complete. And then same as we did before, we can provide some text to the some text for the notification, and in this case we're passing in the name of the printer, so this will be the ground floor printer in our imaginary business here. And like the buttons, we can pass in a bunch of progress bars, and they get passed in through the progress bar parameter. Of course, here I'm using splatting as well to make it a bit easier to see. And then we pass it all into new BurntToast notifications. So let's run that one. And then we get our notification. And you can see here in VS Code, I've got it set to Windows PowerShell as well. So it's flagged that it's coming from there. And then, yeah, we can see our progress bars. Now, one thing to point out here, and it was actually something I should have pointed out with the buttons as well, they'll display in the order that you specify them in on the parameter. So you can see I specified cyan first, then cyan here. So what you could do is, if in this sort of situation where you're using it for monitoring something, you could actually order this programmatically as well. So you could go, okay, the black one is the one that's the lowest, so we'll put that first. And then we'll put yellow, then cyan, then magenta, just so it's showing the most important ones that are closest to being empty first. Then something else you can do with progress bars, just really quick while we're here, and I love editing my demo files mid-demo because then it ends up as a change. But you can do indeterminate as well, which means basically that there's no that there's no known percentage complete for it, but you still want to show the bar. So if I run those, what we'll see is basically a progress bar that shows something's happening, but it doesn't show a specific percentage.
Another trolling opportunity. Installing updates. don't do anything.
And then the other thing as well is there is a value display as well, and then that's just a string. So if we were to go back to splatting that on, if I can type it correctly, that one. So the value display customizes the string that it shows instead of the percentage that it's determined from the value. So if 50% doesn't quite make sense for your use case, say you're processing 98 users, rather than saying you've got through 50% of users, you can say I've done 40 of 98, or so you can create a more user-friendly display of what you're trying to communicate to them as far as the progress is concerned. Obviously, here I've just chucked in a random string because it's a little bit easier than trying to do some maths and figure out a string, but yeah, that's an option. You look like you got a question, Andrew.
I didn't know if you were going to go or if I should ask. Okay, I do have a question, indeed.
Yes.
We have these values. Is there a way to update them on the toast?
Yes, good question. So 2 options. In fact, let's open both of them so that we both of them ready to go. So there's 2 in this apply. I am on the right one. So this applies to toast notifications in general, but the same thing applies to. I believe I've got yes, impressive progress. So this applies to progress bars, but it also applies to anything, including the text on a notification. So we have 2 options. We can replace a notification, and that's a rather jarring experience depending on how you do it, because it literally rips the old one out of existence and displays a new one. So for this example, what I've got is we're going to split some parameters into our toast notification, and here we've got 2 strings that we're going to display, which is just a title and then a second line of text that we're going to be changing. Now, how this works is now we're giving our notification a unique identifier, and that's just a string. So what I tend to do is when I'm doing this for real, I tend to generate a GUID and I'll hold on to that ID and I'll just use that to identify things that I want to update. But here I'm just doing a demo replacement, and we'll go and display that one. So we've got that. Now, while that's on screen, I run the second bit, you'll notice it disappeared and a new notification popped up. And if we look in the history, that first one doesn't exist. The string in my splat, we replaced, because we're starting at 0. So the second string we replaced from showing this, the first example line of text, to this, the first example to the second example. And because we did that while it was on screen, it disappeared. And what you guys aren't hearing is every time that happens, I get a new ding as well. So whatever sound is set for that notification, it's going to do that sound. Now that's disappeared. It's gone off to the action center, so we can see it in there. If I go and run the third example, it reappears. So it's back on my screen as if it was a new notification. And in the action center, it's been updated as well. So like I say, it literally rips that old one out of existence and replaces it with a new one. So this is great when you want to ensure that a user gets that updated information. But you can imagine if you're updating a progress bar every second, that's going to get a little bit annoying hearing those dings, and it's always going to be on screen, and it's not a fun experience. So it's good for ensuring that users are getting up-to-date information, but low frequency of those updates, because you really don't want to be doing that too often. Now, the alternative is updating a toast notification, and this is a little bit more advanced, because what you're doing is instead of just going, I've got a string and I'm just replacing the string, what you end up using is what in the API is called a data binding, or they go into bindable strings and all sorts of stuff. But what you're effectively saying is, when I send through my notification, I've got a placeholder in there. And initially, I want this placeholder to be represented by this text. And then later on, you can update that placeholder to new text and then update the notification rather than sending through a whole new one. So here, you basically, when you start working on them, a data binding is just a hash table where you say, this is the name of the placeholder, and this is this text that I want to display there. And so what you do is you go through, you put those placeholders in just as strings for the text, but then you also give it the data binding. So then in the background, Windows is going, okay, I've got this placeholder here. You've given me a data binding. I'll look for that in here and display that string. And then you display that first notification using new BurntToast notification like we always have. But then to update it, what you do is you update the binding. And then you run update BT notification. And all you have to do for that is give it the ID of the toast and the updated binding. So you're not giving it the full, like if you had images and all sorts, you don't have to keep including those images. You just give it the ID and the binding. So to see that in action, let's run this first bit. We get the example on screen. It's the first example line of text. And then if we do an update, it just seamlessly updated it on screen. It didn't disappear and come back. I didn't get a second ping in my ears. It just updated the text. Now, if that wants to hurry up and dismiss, we can see that that is in the Action Center. And if we go and update it a third time to say this is the third example, nothing happened. My terminal says succeeded, but I, as the user, didn't get updated to the fact that there's a new notification. But the data on the notification in the Action Center has updated. So it did, while off screen, the data on it updated for me. Now, one thing is, if I go and run that again and dismiss it, so there's nothing in my notifications, if I then go and try and update it, because I, as the user, have dismissed that toast, there's now no toast to update. And so you'll get back, as the person authoring the toasts, you'll get back a thing. Instead of saying success, it'll tell you notification not found. So what you could do, as the person running the toasts, you could look for that response and go, okay, this is important enough that I do need the user to see the updated information, and then you can put in your own logic to then go and retoast the toast with the updated information. So you've got options.
Can I ask?
Yes.
By the way, I'm eating all this up, and thank you for joining us. I think for you, well, I can see it now. It's 7:55. You joined us before 7 a.m. So,
yep. But tomorrow, it's fine.
Exactly, tomorrow, coming from the future. Couple questions. One, is there a no audio option? Like, say someone's not in D&D and we want to give them a toast with no sound at all? Is it possible to do that, or does it just default to whatever Windows has set?
Yep. So there is a silent flag there
Look
as
at
well.
that. Nice. Next question.
Yes. Yep.
Go ahead. Okay.
No, go for it. Yep.
All right. Can progress or status bars be updated using the data binding method?
Yes. So I actually got a demo for that one. Now I'm not going to necessarily talk through this one because, and I'll give an example of why I'm not going to talk through this one. But there's a bit of logic that I've put together for handling for creating a nice looking demo of this. Now I have this, if you ever played the old SimCity, and that these are a lot of those things that were on the loading screen for them. I believe we should see reticulating splines in here somewhere. I'm not seeing it offhand, but it should be in there somewhere. But at the end of the day, it's effectively just updating the bindings and then updating the notification. So I've got a lot of other stuff in there for calculating seconds and all sorts. But the end result is this. So all we're really doing is updating the binding that's being used. We can see in the let's get rid of that so we can see a bit more. In the progress bar, there is a parent title, and that is in the data binding. And also, you can see you can put blank strings in for the data bindings as well. But also, you can put integer values in there. So parent value there is the value on a progress bar. So then you can, this is obviously how it's then updating, is we're changing that parent value in the data binding and updating the toast. And we're updating the toast a lot. And there we go, 100%. So then gets to 100%, it stops updating. And you can see the script's finished.
Wow.
And that also works in the Action Center. So it doesn't, the act of updating it, if I remember correctly, the act of updating it, if you do it quick enough, does keep it on screen. But as the user, I can go and send it off into the Action Center, and then it will keep updating in there. So sure.
Here's a follow-up. Can that toast with updating progress bars run in a job so that Jake Hildreth can do other things? Busy guy,
yes.
apparently.
So as long as, and this is a key thing as well, as long as the notification is being run as the user, it will display for that user. So as long as that job isn't being run as, say, system or another user, then yes, it'll work.
Okay, this is just a me question. Dude,
Yep.
This is hitting me back in my mind. So for those who don't know, listen to podcast on Monday, but I was a fan of Josh forever ago. Big fanboy. Dude, did you have something on your stream like that? I could have sworn you had some kind of intro, stream starting soon, but it had some kind of witty little things. Was that it exactly, or is it different?
So this is a repurposing of that. So a lot of this code here, this function script that I have here that now says update BurntToast notification, it used to do progress bars in the console.
That was right.
And that's what you're thinking of. So yeah, that's why it says stream starting soon, because yes, I used to use it for the 5-minute countdown to when I was starting to stream.
So fancy, man. Progress bars back in those days was incredibly fancy, and now we got BurntToast, so things have come a long way.
So I know I'm good for time, but I know we're probably sort of starting to push it a bit.
Honestly, the people who weren't going to stick around, they watched the beginning, they learned about it, maybe they'll take it. They may not have a use case for the more advanced stuff. I say if you're down to keep talking, I'm down to keep talking. Yep. Just so it's there.
There's really only 2 more things to cover. One of them's a bigger one, but let's do it. So the first one is actionable notifications. And this is where you can take you can basically run a script block, so any PowerShell code, as a result of a user activating your toast. So here, to sort of demonstrate this, I've got an example where I have a script block. So you can see that just by the fact that it's got curly braces. And that script block, all it does is writes a warning called activated. Then I've got a button. And like I said before, arguments can be a link to a file, but it can also just be a random string. And then when we come to running our notification, I can say, when we activate this toast, run that script block that we defined above. So what I can do is show me that update hasn't broken anything. We get that. I, as the user, go and click that test button. Oh no. Okay. I jinxed it when I said that. Oh, no. I jinxed it when I said that update was going to break something.
Do you think it has anything to do with VS Code? I know probably not, but
yeah, I am going to try and jump over to my terminal again.
if you know, you know. When in doubt, get it out of VS Code.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
No right warning.
One more thing. Let's try it in. Looks like I've got some patches to read through.
I'm just wondering, when I see that, I'm like in my head, I'm not connecting how pressing that would put something on your PowerShell thing here, because it's not live. Like once you send it, it's gone, right? Where would the warning go?
So what's happening behind the scenes is, and I sort of did it here just to get rid of it, but what's happening is PowerShell itself is registering an event. So if you've ever done things like a file watcher event, so you can set PowerShell to do a thing if a file gets written to. It's exactly that construct. So what would happen is when it's working, is it would show the warning just sort of completely unprompted. It would just show up. And it makes a lot more sense when you can actually see it, which is sort of a pain. And in fact, because of how my shell's set up, it would literally show the warning as if it was being typed in next to my $sign there, which is fun. So then in order for me to get my prompt back, I need to hit enter again. But also, if you had multiple events, it would do the warning multiple times along the bottom there. So that is, and random aside to everyone, if you're going to be doing a demo, don't update your system the day before. Because what's really cool is I did Windows updates and PowerShell updates yesterday. So I've got two things to look at.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not able to show the right warning. Do we think that it's not executing any PowerShell, or it's just not having an issue displaying the stream back here?
So I generally use right warning because it sort of always works. But we can try.
Like maybe open up Chrome and close it or something like that.
Well, we can try. Let's try creating a file.
Yeah, file. That's probably way simpler.
So, and so to finish that thought on the registering an event. So that event or that event action is registered for this PowerShell session. So if I close this PowerShell session, but the toast is still there, it won't fire. Because there's nothing there anymore that's listening for that event happening. And also I can unregister the event as well, which just means I've cleaned it up in this session proactively. I'll do that over here as well. Okay, so let's try. I did put that as activated, yeah. Oh, actually, let's see if that worked. No. So, sorry, what I was doing there is when the event fires, sort of like when there's an error, there's an automatic variable called error that you can go into to inspect what happened and what the error code was and all of that sort of stuff. Inside an event, so when the script runs, there's a automatic variable called event, which you can use inside that, the scope of that that script block. Now, sometimes you'll want to go and inspect what's in that variable, but from where you interact with it in the console, you can't get to that variable. So what I did is I've got a event data variable which is similar to in PowerShell 7 the I forget what it's called. There's a couple where you can specify the name of a variable that comes out of
out variable.
Not quite.
T object maybe.
No, it's actually let's. Helps if I can type right. This is. What am I thinking of? Oh, event data variable. No, that's just one. That's PowerShell, VS Code being helpful, but also I'm in Windows PowerShell, which I specifically said it was PowerShell 7. Request and yes, response headers variable. So in PowerShell 7 with invoke web request, you can tell it, I want you to capture the headers of the response and put them in a variable called, in this case, from my history there, I called it headers response or resp, which then means after that's called, I can go and run blah to inspect the headers. So it's the same situation here as I'm saying, when this action is executed, go and expose that event data to me in a variable called that. So then I can go ahead and go blah, blah, blah. So if the event had run, I should be able to look into there, and that's useful for doing things like, which we haven't seen in these notifications, you can put text box and stuff up. So you can see the contents of those text box in that variable. You can also see the argument for the button that was pressed. So if you had multiple buttons, you can then go and see which button was pressed and take an action based on that. That, of course, relies on the action actually running. So we're not going to see that. And that answers the other question as well. So I don't think it's worth going down the let's try and write a file thing, is because that's not populated. It didn't work at all. So, definitely look out for a new version of BurntToast where I fix that, or provided guidance around Windows updates. So the other thing I wanted to show was customizing what am I thinking of? The branding. Just put everything away. There we go. So at the moment, the toast notifications are coming through attributed to PowerShell 7 or Windows PowerShell. In previous versions of BurntToast, it was possible to do create an app ID, or what's called an app ID, which specifies a name and an icon. And then when you're calling your toast notification, you would say use this app ID. That's not possible anymore because of some of the stuff we've had to do to get the events working. But what we have to do now is to get the branding to work. We actually have to create a custom shortcut to run PowerShell through, and that shortcut has branding, the app ID and stuff embedded in it. There's some really arcane .NET stuff, which took a very long time to figure out. But what we can do is we can go new BT shortcut. Let's give it a unique ID. So let's go Q. It's because I know I've never used that. Then display name. Let's call this one BurntToast. And we can give it a icon. BurntToast. Images. Sure, BurntToast logo.icon. That'll work. I believe, I need to double check, but I believe the reason I have an ICO file sitting there, or an icon file sitting there, is because this requires it to be an icon. So you can't go and point at a PNG file. Luckily, it's relatively trivial to convert a PNG file into an ICO file. But that is how it is at the moment. So if I run that, we don't see anything. But then if I go and look at my desktop, we have this. Now, one of the caveats that I mentioned is at the moment, I have taken, and I didn't realize I'd taken until I was prepping for today, a naive approach on this, in that it's appending PowerShell to it, which it shouldn't be. So I believe I've got some logic in there that is adding it when it shouldn't. But now if I run that and I go toast, I was about to say, oh no, the notification didn't work, but it's because I've got Do Not Disturb turned on. And so it's seeing this as a new app that isn't cleared to break through D&D. So this is probably a decent enough excuse to go and show how to do that. So once an app has shown, has displayed at least one notification, let's go back to the start. Under, in your settings, under system, there's a notifications area. And we can see all the notifications that we've got that have displayed notifications. So of course, and they're in the order by default of most recent. So we can see here, I've done PowerShell 7, we've done Windows PowerShell, and now we've got this branded BurntToast one come through. So as a user as well, in here, you can turn on and off notifications. You can say what priority they have. So which order that they show in the Action Center. So I might just put that on top. And you can also say, actually, I don't ever want to hear sound from this application. I still want the application, still want the notifications, but I don't want the sound from them. But then the thing for priority notifications is here. So then I can go into that and say, by default, these are the I don't know why Microsoft decided the snipping tool needed to have a priority notification, but that's in there by default. And then we can go and add an app. We can say it's PowerShell BurntToast. So now, if I run that again, there we go. So we've got the branding and we've got that. So we've got the icon file there and we've got the display name. And like I said, it shouldn't have PowerShell there. So the next version of BurntToast will fix that so that that doesn't show there anymore. And the other thing, was there another thing to show there? Oh, yes. So that will create, when you run new BT shortcut, it will create a shortcut for the version of PowerShell that you're executing it from. So I'm in PowerShell 7 here. It created a PowerShell 7 shortcut. if I was in Windows PowerShell, it would create a Windows PowerShell shortcut. If you want to override that, first of all, there is Force Windows PowerShell. So regardless of whether I'm in PowerShell 7 or, well, if I'm in PowerShell 7, I can say, no, actually go and use Windows PowerShell. Alternatively, you can also say, point to a specific executable path. So you can go and, if for whatever reason you've got a side-by-side install of PowerShell where you've got multiple versions of PowerShell 7 installed and you want to target a specific one of them, you can go and point to the path. It does need to be a path to PowerShell, or I guess technically a shell that can execute PowerShell code, because you do need to be able to run it and launch your things through that. One interesting thing at the moment is somehow on my system, so in theory, when you run that, it should only work when you run that shortcut. So here, I've just opened terminal. I'm in my default version of PowerShell 7. So this isn't my customized one. But if I run Toast now, that branding has become sticky. And to my understanding, it shouldn't. So that is a happy accident, because if I do it for Windows PowerShell, it isn't sticky. So I don't know what's happening there. And I suspect it's something that I've done to my system, but I'm interested to see if anybody else plays with this, if they see the same thing. Because it may be a PowerShell 7 specific thing where it's remembering that shortcut that it was run through.
Josh,
but all the docs say that shouldn't work.
This seems really annoying and cumbersome to troubleshoot. Would you say it kind of is? Because you're like so many layers removed from things.
It has been a interesting journey of learning this API and the library to interact with it. Oh, and one thing I mentioned, since we're this far deep into it as well, behind the scenes, the Windows API is just it's accepting an XML payload, an XML document. So actually, I wonder if I really get into it. Yes. So we've been using new BurntToast notification, which obfuscates a lot of what you're seeing in this this file. So, for example, when we're over here and we go toast text blah, I don't know why that keeps coming up as sad when I'm doing must be my gamer finger placement. When we're running text and providing a thing to the easy entry point function, behind the scenes, it's actually running new BT text. So it's that new BurntToast notification function is obfuscating away a bunch of the inner workings so that you don't need to worry about it. But sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you do need to dive into that. So here we're getting into the weeds of it, and then we basically build up the toast. And if you've ever seen the XML for this, and I will be able to show the XML for this, these sort of map to the overall nodes in that XML document. But these are there's a binding that holds the text, and there's a visual element that holds the binding, and then there's the actual content which loops everything together. And then the end result is you can submit. So if I run this one, hopefully, there we go. So this one here is a example of, in the strictest sense, the example is showing what's currently playing in a media player as an example. So some media players can write a text file to disk that tells you what's currently playing. And so here I'm just surfacing that in a notification. And my idea here was to show it on a stream. So if I was playing music and the track changed, I then wanted to show a notification to say, hey, here's what the current song is. But what it is it's an example of how to display some more text-heavy information in that we now have columns. So we can do a column that has some labels in it and then the actual data there. So in a PowerShell script, you could have a table of information and display it in columns. So like ignore the picture there, but you could then just have, dense information as well on a notification.
Is that a hero image or is that just a...
That isn't a hero image. So that's what I was thinking of for when I was looking through the syntax earlier on. I was looking to see if the main helper function, the new BurntToast notification, exposed how to do this. For that, we've got the app logo, which is that one there, but we also have an image. So new BT image, pointing it at the image. If we were to be doing a hero image, let's get that's out of the way. We would do, no, we wouldn't do that. If we were doing an app logo, yes, there we go. So this command is doing some heavy lifting. It works for both in-body images and app logos. But when you create an image, what you can do is you can put it in line with, where are we? I don't have any text there. So this is getting really into the weeds. When you get to doing a binding, that binding holds all the text and images and, well, here, obviously columns. It's also got the app logo in there. But that holds a lot of the body content of the toast. And then you just put them together against the children. So you can mix and match text and images. And I believe, if memory serves, the maximum is 4 child elements. So you could have like 3 lines of text and an image. And that's ignoring the columns because they're their own thing that's got their own rules associated with them. But yeah, so you can mix and mix. But that's how you get a toast. That's how you get an image in the body of the toast rather than as a hero image. So yeah, lots and lots of options. But so the reason why I brought this demo up was then I can go ahead and say, I've got this content object now, which I'm submitting, but I can go now and look at that. Let's clear this up and say get XML, and I can actually no, not get XML. There we go. Let's see if I've got an XML formatter installed. P is what I'm looking for, format document. There we go. So then this is for that notification, this is the XML document that has been generated and what the PowerShell, sorry, not PowerShell, what the Windows API is using to display that notification. And yeah, so the very, very early days of BurntToast was hand rolling these XML documents, which wasn't fun.
I don't know if we talked about that on the podcast or not, or if we did it beforehand.
I think we briefly mentioned it, yeah. So yeah, that in a little bit under an hour and a half is a whirlwind tour of BurntToast. There's so much more that we can go into. Yeah, because basically what we could do is sit here and go, could you do this? And then we could go and find out. But like literally, you could do anything that you could think of. Oh, no.
Wow, Josh, I'm just mind blown, honestly. When you see stuff like this, the possibility is infinite on the low end. Like with just the new BurntToast notification, you can really do an incredible amount and really get some easy wins. Very easy wins, to be honest, and fun projects. Like as a beginner, getting something you can interact with and see, just it gives you
Yes.
side projects you can dabble with.
Yep. There we go.
Look at that.
So, and yeah, one of the things, and we definitely mentioned this on the podcast. Well, actually, did we? It may have been in. We talk so often.
I know.
that,
That's what I'm saying. I never know what I say publicly versus privately.
But one of the things that I get a kick out of, and I know it's something that my kids have gotten a kick out when they've been dabbling in programming, is seeing things. Like seeing things happen. It's one thing to see some output in a console, but seeing a thing pop up on your desktop, or with my kids, they've got like a code bug with LEDs and stuff on it, and seeing the LEDs do stuff is really rewarding for them rather than just seeing some numbers on a screen. So yeah, it's huge, and yeah, you can do almost anything with the notifications. It's very gratifying to see something visually appealing come out of it.
I mean, especially that last example that you showed. I mean, the button example is also another one that's like kind of a huge game changer. The fact that you can click things and take action and whatnot. But the last where you could like customize it and show something. I mean, you were using it for music, so I could see that being part of someone writes a little module to loop through their little folder of songs and grab the MP3 information and update the thing. Basically repeating what applications already do, but you get to do it. You get to customize it. You get to gain that confidence and experience and have fun, because writing code, if you don't know how to do it, can be sometimes not fun. If it's not,
Yeah,
this can be fun.
it can be.
I have an overly aggressive question here.
Sure.
It's this troublemaker named Morton. Question: what happens if you try and make a toast when there's no GUI, like in Azure Automation for some reason?
It should just silently fail, or it, depending on the specifics. So I've not tried it in Azure Automation, but the BurntToast will try and detect that it's running in the right context. So, for example, if you're not running Windows 10, the specific version of Windows 10 that's needed or above, it'll warn you and just not operate. I used to detect if you had a GUI available and do stuff based on that, but I think we removed that because it wasn't needed anymore. But it should just fail. But I'm not sure of in that specific environment is if it'll fail silently or if it'll actually throw.
Yeah, I told Morton he needs to play around and figure that out for himself. Very interesting use case, Morton. I'm sure you're going to get a lot done. All right. Well, Josh, is there anything else you want to cover before I let you go? I mean, we did cover an insane amount. I think if you're feeling inspired, just dive in. Just get started
Yeah.
once the PowerShell gallery comes up, or you can check out the GitHub. Links to everything are going to be in the description as well. Josh, you have a website. It's called toasted.dev. You just type that into your browser, you press enter, and you can see your blog, which you've been doing for a long time. I came up on that. A lot of amazing content on there. Check it out. Where else should people find you? Any other links you want to plug?
I'm on Blue Sky, and that's
Toasted.dev.
Yep. And GitHub, my handle there is just Windows. I need to think about that one because my handle in other places is Windows NZ.
It is just Windows.
But I believe there it's just Windows.
It is.
Yeah. So yeah, and as far as BurntToast is concerned, in the near future, expect some updates to the docs, and expect an update to BurntToast itself to cover some of the bugs that have come up recently.
Yeah, and I'd say, man, it'd be really cool if somebody else memorized the API like you have, so they could, I don't know, test some of these things and give a second set of eyes, help you out with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
awesome.
If anybody goes and uses it, do open issues, do open pull requests if you feel like getting your feet wet on the code. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Well, Thank you, Josh, and thank you everybody out there. It's PowerShell Wednesday. I mean, it kind of started a little bit ago. We had some fun. If you stuck around until now, well, we are friends. Josh, these are our people here. What
Yes.
up? I hope you're digging what we're putting down here. This is a fantastic project. We do this every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here. Join us on the PDQ Discord, discord.gg/PDQ. We have a PowerShell scripting channel, a lot of cool chitter and chatter and planning of these and talking about podcast episodes and talking about problems we're having with PowerShell and solutions as well. Josh, we have a podcast coming out on Monday.
We do.
Oh my gosh. And I very interesting intro from me on that one, which rewatching it, I'm like, what was I thinking? But you did a fantastic job. Always good to chat with you. You want to hear a little bit more behind the scenes of BurntToast, 10 years old, of our relationship, of how you got to where you are and learned so much stuff and lessons you learned along the way and more. But that's kind of all I got to say to everybody. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next week. We'll see you on Monday. Josh King, you are a PowerShell legend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.